好，唔該晒。
Thank you. Welcome to the press conference of Policy Address 2025 by the Chief Executive. There are two parts. We'll first hear from the Chief Executive about the policy address before we take questions. Chief Executive, first of all, I thank you all for coming here to attend this press conference. I know that you have a lot of questions on the policy address, which is normal. The policies included in the policy address are short, medium, long-term policies. In addition, there is strategic planning in there as well. Let me first explain to you about the philosophy of my preparation of the policy address. 3 years ago, I took office as the Chief Executive. I've been working actively on reform. I want to build a foundation. Over the past 3 years, the tenor of my policies center on reform to change. I worked on cultivating a sense in society and the government for reform. Without that, my initiatives would not have worked. Over 3 years, I have built a solid foundation. On this foundation, I am able to work on problems and formulate strategic planning. So in addition to the short, medium, and long-term measures on issues we face, I also focus on long-term planning as well as systemic planning. Through reform and planning, our development direction will be clearer. So in this policy address, you see comprehensive reform and planning. The theme is to develop the economy and improve people's lives. By developing the economy, it gives us more capacity to improve on many different things with an ultimate aim to improve people's lives. So the theme of this policy address is deepening reforms for our people, leveraging our strengths for a brighter future. The philosophy behind is, as I explained, I have spent 3 years to work on the foundation through reform. Now I have to broaden and widen the reform because we have the conditions to do it. The goal is to work for the well-being of our people because that is my goal. How do we develop the economy so that people's lives will improve? I think this is high time for us to leverage our strengths. There are many changes. The trade order of the world has been reshaped. In the past 3 years, we have moved from chaos to stability. We have a sound foundation. I think the government supports my philosophy. We all work together. We are focused. We need to make better use of our advantages. Some of these advantages have been emphasized, even though they have been there for a very long term. I tell you that we have to make better use of it. The government sets the direction, and the whole society works to create value for a brighter future, which is manifested in better lives. That's why in the last chapter, I focused on people's lives. I will first talk about this area. It's the original intention of my governance, because every government wants to work to improve people's lives, to give people a better home. However, we face challenges. There is physical pressure. We have a physical deficit. Our reserves have dropped. So we have to set priorities when it comes to livelihood projects. There are 3 areas set a while ago, and I think that they are good. They are social welfare, healthcare, and education. These have priorities because social welfare and healthcare affect everyone, no matter what age you are. Of course, we have to take better care of the underprivileged in terms of social welfare. So these 3 areas affect every person in society, and every person in society benefits. We have emphasis on certain areas, say, for example, the underprivileged under social welfare. We spend money on these 3 areas. I spend about 60% of the recurrent expenditure of government spending. These 3 areas are under the purview of 3 bureaus out of 15. So, on average, less than 8% on each bureau, which accounts for about 12%. If I divide by 15 bureau, you will realize that the distribution is actually not even. The 3 areas I have mentioned accounts for 60% under the purview of 3 bureaus out of 15. The 3 bureaus accounting for 30% of the number of bureaus spend 60% of the recurrent expenditure. That means the resources allocated to these 3 bureaus is about 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, depending on which one you're comparing with. How much do we spend? In terms of social welfare, we spend about $357 million. On healthcare is a $360 million, education $282 million. This is the amount spent every day, not a month, not half a year. So this is the afternoon. We have spent about $180 million on social welfare already. So every day we spend about $1 billion a day on these 3 areas. We do a lot of work. Correct allocation of resources is something that is always on our mind. I highlight these 3 areas because they're closely related to people's lives. The 3 areas affect everyone. Healthcare, education affect everyone, whereas social welfare affects the underprivileged. I have increased the amount of allocation by about 20%. When I took office, we spent about less than $300 billion, and now we spend about $350 billion on it. In terms of the chapter on people's lives, I am only going to pick on the salient points. I attach importance on housing, and as I said at the outset, that supply is important. We want to increase supply of housing and enrich the housing ladder. In terms of public housing in the coming 5 years, supply will be 189,000 units. The figure may be quite abstract to you, but I can tell you it's an increase by about 80% compared to the time when I first took office. Thanks to the work of everyone at that post, we successfully changed the pattern of small production at the beginning and larger production at the end. At the beginning, the pattern was about 30% at first and 70% towards the end. But now, in the first 5 years, we can supply 60% of the supply and about 40% towards the end. The composite waiting time for public housing has reduced by 1 year, which is now 5.1 years. And there is something that I have worked heavily on. The supply of a home ownership scheme in the coming 5 years will increase by 50%. When it comes to housing, I hope that for different groups, in particular, the grassroots, they will be able to move up. They can make use of white form or the green form purchase or the HOS scheme to own a flat. We want to increase the supply by 50%. In addition to enabling ownership, I can also achieve another goal. I'll increase the capacity of green form subsidized home ownership scheme. I increase the ratio from 4 to 6 to 5 to 5. When a tenant has purchased a flat, then the tenant household vacates the public housing for another household. Well, the secondary market for HOS is very popular. That's why we increased the quota by about 1,000 when it comes to white form secondary market scheme. Now is 7,000. When it comes to the alienation restriction for the green form HOS or HOS, the period has been reduced from 15 to 10 years. That means in 10 years' time, you will be able to buy a flat in the private sector. There was one time when the situation was different because speculation was rampant, but the situation is different now. It'll be good to give people a choice. That's in terms of housing. You'll find the details in the chapter. I just want to explain to you why I attach emphasis on this.
On healthcare, it is a major area out of the 3 areas I mentioned. There are many measures in the policy address on public housing. It is also the case for healthcare. For cataract, we want to enhance efficiency of treatment services provided. With our reform of the healthcare system, we will be able to increase 10% to 20% of our service capacity. For specialist services, with our reforms, we can also shorten 10% of the waiting time. That is about 10 weeks. For knee joint services, we specifically mentioned this because there is keen demand for such services. If we provide more in preventive care, we believe there will be less demand in treatment services in future. That's for public health care. For primary health care, ever since we have promulgated primary health care, we have seen an increase in the use of such services and the number of users. We want to have district health care centers in all 18 districts. Some districts only have district health center expresses at the moment. So we do want to increase the number of centers. We also want to provide more in Hep B screening. We have included this as a part of our chronic disease management. Since we have already established the Primary Health Care Commission, we now need legal foundations to make sure we can provide comprehensive primary health care services, to provide them in an efficient manner as well. So we may change some laws in, say, the referral arrangements. We will also enhance cancer treatment and care. On Chinese medicine development, we will commission the Chinese Medicine Hospital of Hong Kong this year. We will have a screening or testing institute in the vicinity. We will have CM services for special diseases. We want to make sure there are integrated Chinese Western medicine services. Chinese medicine has proved to be quite effective in providing palliative care, especially for cancer patients. For mental well-being measures, we have a number of measures as well. We are going to regularize the 3-tier school-based emergency mechanism. We will expand it to primary 4 to 6 as well. I think that is quite a good measure. We want to have at district health centers a Healthy Mind Pilot project. It is quite popular. At first, this service was only available in 3 centers. In future, we want to expand it to 6 centers. Now, on labor, I very much pay close attention to the situation. We are going to prioritize local employment. This is something we must adhere to, this principle. In 2023, we have enhanced the supplementary labor scheme. Why did we do that? It is because in 2023, we projected that the labor force will decline with an aging population. The labor force peaked in 2018. We had approximately 3.67 million in labor force. In 2023, we enhanced the supplementary labor scheme, and we have seen a decline of 190,000 in labor force. And if we only count those under 60, it will be even less. We will continue to see a declining labor force. In 2023, we projected a manpower gap of 81,500 compared to the peak before. The gap was 79,600, which means in 2023, the labor force demand was, well, first we have to understand there is a decline in labor force. There's also an increasing manpower gap, which is why we had the enhanced supplementary labor scheme. We still have a keen manpower gap in many professions, including in the laundry profession, dishwashing profession, as well as the warehouses. But some professions, we do not really have a manpower gap. Let me emphasize that. Which is why I have targeted measures in the policy address. For waiters and waitresses, as well as junior cooks, we have specific measures. Why did we focus on the 2 ends? It is because they make up a majority in the labor we imported. But we have seen some restaurants importing labor successfully, whereas some restaurants have closed, and then they had some of their workers having to transfer to other restaurants, and the workers may be in unemployment for a while. So some professions, some occupations, some companies do have a manpower gap. Our policy is that we will combat abuse. If they indeed have such demand, we will allow them to import labor. We don't want them to have to close because they do not have enough labor. We need to make sure companies are not abusing the mechanism. So for the two specific occupations, we have targeted measures. We have extended the recruitment period from 4 weeks to 6 weeks for 8 weeks. So that is double the current period. We also require them to take part in on-site job fairs. The Labor Department personnel will be monitoring closely the situation. For the two occupations, we also have a manpower ratio of 2 to 1. So we will have to have at least 2 local cooks before the restaurants can engage or can import a junior cook. This is a manning ratio requirement we'll strictly adhere to make sure there is no abuse of the mechanism. We will also combat the engagement of illegal workers. We have been collecting data. We had the manpower projections in 2023. In 2025, this year, we want to have a midterm review of the manpower projections, focusing on the professions where they're importing labor. So that is on top of the 2 specific occupations we mentioned here, so that we will have some findings in the middle of the implementation of the arrangements. This will help us combat abuse and make sure companies that need to import labor can continue doing so. On targeted poverty alleviation, we do see good results so far. The Strive and Rise program will continue. We attach great importance to children development. So under the Children Development Fund, for the work they have been doing, we want to incorporate our experience in the Strive and Rise program. We will also provide more funding. On community living rooms, the users have given positive feedback, and therefore we'll have 6 additional community living rooms. On elderly, we will have 4,000 community service vouchers for the elderly. We will also have additional 1,000 residential care service vouchers for the elderly. We will also enhance the residential care services scheme in Guangdong so that those living in relatively poor conditions locally can retire in Guangdong. We are also providing more in child care services. We are going to increase the number of places for assisted reproductive care services. We are going to set up also a working group on aging society strategies. As I said earlier, there is a declining labor force as a result of an aging population, which is why we want to have a working group that targets these issues. We have 15 policy bureaus participating in such work, and they will also produce a report on this next year.
On transport, we have 3 green and smart transportation systems, including Kai-Tak. The first one will have a tendering exercise started this year, to be followed by the other two. When it comes to cross-district autonomous vehicle testing, we now want to provide a bigger area for the testing of autonomous vehicles. We want to see what it's actually like in operation. We want to link this with public transportation. We don't want the testing to stay on a drawing board on a pilot or beta basis. Now I turn to support local economy. I have launched 11 measures to support SMEs. I'm not going to go into details now. There may be a couple of initiatives that you are interested in. We have increased the expenditure on public projects. We have earmarked $30 billion in the coming 2 to 3 years. The amount has increased from 90 billion to 120 billion, but we see that there is a drop in works project in the private sector. That's why we want to increase expenditure in the public sector to give jobs to construction workers. The other initiatives is licensing for restaurants. In the past few years, we have been putting in place enhancement measures. We in the past vetted applications after the restaurant has started operation. We want to expedite the licensing approval for outdoor seating. We now put in place a joint assessment. So instead of going from one department to the next for approval, we now have a joint vetting. The FEHD, of course, will approach the directors to coordinate the work of different departments, the applications or the procedures together. If there are difficulties, the matter will be elevated to higher level. When there is diversified economic development mentioned in the policy address. In Hung Yuen Wai, there will be development of the food industry. In addition, we support the development of the agri and fish sector. We will grant a license to allow restaurant operators to allow dogs to be brought into the restaurants. Of course, we will iron out the details after consultation by the FEHD with the sector. What is important is that if a license is granted, it will be clearly stated, letting people know whether this particular eatery allows dogs to enter. I believe this will bring a lot of business opportunities to these establishments. Deepening reform. There is a dedicated chapter in my policy address on Northern Metropolis. There is a committee on development of Northern Metropolis set up. Previously, there is the steering committee. What's the difference between the committee and the steering committee? When I took office, I realized that engaging all 15 bureaus in such a large-scale project would require coordination and division of labor. We are at the stage where we have put in place planning. That means I was putting together a team in the past 3 years, and now they're ready to set off and to work on projects that bring greater benefits. The first stage is allocation of tasks and coordinated planning, which is the planning stage. Now it is a stage of acceleration. There are 3 working groups. I'm going to dispense with the details because you will find these in the policy address. What I'd like to say is that the Northern Metropolis accounts for 1/3 of the land of the area in Hong Kong. The first working group is headed by the Financial Secretary. The purview is to set up dedicated companies. That includes statutory or non-statutory bodies. I'm sure there will be more than one bodies or companies because we can't just use one company to manage such a large area. I believe that the individual characteristics of the different parts will be taken into account, leveraging on the respective strengths. Say, for example, this area will focus on this industry for this kind of development. Another area may have a different area of development direction. So there'll be more than one company or bodies. The working group will make recommendations. Say, for example, to set up one company in this area or one company in this large scale piece of land or any other different methods. Dedicated legislation. Well, where administrative measures can resolve problems, we will do that. And if we need dedicated legislation, we will go to the LegCo and go through the necessary procedure. I believe that if there is a sound legal basis, we can expedite a lot of matters. Well, there is a dedicated chapter on industries. First, we work on attracting industry practitioners to come to Hong Kong and nurture local ones. There is also, in addition to that, a hybrid approach. That means we try to attract enterprises to come to Hong Kong and then nurture them. Well, we have signed an agreement on intention in relation to an aero service company in Europe, an aeronautic company in Europe. There are also other industries in upper, mid, or lower streams. In terms of emerging industries, there is the pharmaceutical product manufacturing industry. It's a hybrid approach. We attract companies that come to Hong Kong and then nurture them to help them grow. We have an advantage in this regard because we have a very high level of capability in healthcare. Another advantage that is unique to us is that we have a huge potential data because if a registration can be obtained, then it may be used on the mainland. And there is the Sustainable Aviation Fuel, SAF. It is a global trend to use SAF. There is a successful local company producing an amount that is the second in the market. We work with the company and mainland government bodies. The production of SAF requires a huge amount of factors of production. We're working with mainland government departments to give them an advantage. So I'm sure that SAF is an industry that we have an advantage on. In addition to SAF, there is hydrogen energy and emerging technology industries. You will find them all in the policy address. However, I emphasize on the AI industry because, again, it is a global trend. If you don't do it, you will be left behind. AI can be used in many different areas. I promote government departments to make better use of AI. You'll find details in the policy address. Another area is governance. I've been working on strengthening our governance. We are a government that is result oriented. We have the government-wide mobilization program. I said in this policy address that there will be a head of department accountability system. Management of the civil service is very important. So if they carry out their work properly, then it will be a huge boost to our efficiency. Our civil service is the second best in the world. I'd like to say this. So we are comparable to the civil servants of any places in the world, but we can always do better. We want heads of departments to effectively manage their teams. That's why we have this accountability system for HODs, heads of department. In military lingo, it means that generals will manage their troops respectively. This accountability system targets executive departments. That means departments that execute government matters. Well, we have the accountability system. It's secretaries of departments and permanent secretaries that work on the formulation of policies. That is the accountability system. They are principal officials. I always search for candidates that are better. But we have also an accountability system for civil servants in the execution of policies. In English, it's very clear, it's accountability for performance. So they are accountable for their performance. If we task the HODs to ensure that teams are properly managed, it will be conducive to the implementation of policies. I want to say that heads of departments have their own respective duties and accountability to fulfill. In the past, we have dealt with heads of departments because of what they've done. But there was not really a system in place. When do we trigger the accountability system? Who's in charge of implementing it? What about outcome? That's why I have explained in a policy address the goal and the details. There are 2 levels and a dedicated team. There are 2 tiers. And we have also expanded the function of the PSC, the Public Service Commission. It has an additional function of carrying out investigations. When we have a result, we will follow the established mechanism and the code for civil servants to handle the cases. The maximum penalty for discipline sanction is dismissal. I want to make the accountability system for civil servants systematic. I've also explained in the policy address that, well, dedicated civil servants, we have a mechanism to encourage them to do better and to reward them. For sub-performers, we will provide them with assistance and, if necessary, discipline them. We use AI to improve the efficiency of government efficiency as well as governance. So we have set up this AI advocacy enhancement team. We want to bring in a fresh view. We want our efficiency to be enhanced. There is another innovative approach. We will make use of a commercial approach in terms of LCSD venues. That's why we will introduce the market-based business models for LCSD venues, say for example beaches. We want to give members of the public more choices as to where they will go during the holidays. And there is another chapter about Hong Kong's advantage. I'm not going to go into details, but just a few points here. Shipping center, financial center, and education hub. I want to talk about an enhanced measure of the CIES, the new CIES, the new capital investment entrance scheme. Now turning into a trade center. Well, an initiative was mentioned, but I want to make sure that when I propose a measure, it will deliver results. That's why I plan to expand it in the next stage. The financial service will set up a committee to enhance communications with the trade. We want to expedite the development of a commodity trading ecosystem. In terms of financial services, we would like to set up a central clearing system for gold trading.
And with transport, we often emphasize that there should be an intermodal transport system of rail, sea, land, and river. The Transport and Logistics Bureau is trying to strive for more cargo sources. So from Chongqing, Chengdu, they have comprehensive rail networks which we can use. And to the east, we have the Shanghai port that can export goods to other places. Hong Kong and other mainland ports are complementary. We have great connections to Southeast Asia and South America because of our advantages. We have established channels for goods in Chengdu and Chongqing to come to Guangxi and Yantian port through rail, and then they can be shipped to our ports, which will then be exported. We will continue to see if we can establish new connections to have more cargo sources. On education, we have 5 top 100 universities. We are in a great position to develop Hong Kong into an international education hub. We have seen in the past year or two, with more non-local students admitted, we have seen a more vibrant environment with more exchanges between local and non-local students. It has also broadened the horizons of local students. For admission of non-local students, we have adjusted the ratio from 40% to 50%. But I emphasize that we will continue to provide 15,000 subsidized local student quotas. This will not change. We have a dedicated chapter for the development of culture, sports, and tourism. We are to develop Hong Kong into a premium arts trading hub. We are already in the top 3. So we are in a great position to do more. We also want to develop yacht economy. We have relaxed some restrictions. One does not need to have a designated yacht berth before they come into Hong Kong. We allow yachts to berth only by anchoring, so they can enjoy themselves in different parts of Hong Kong waters. But marine safety is, of course, very important, which is why we will have an automatic detection system detecting the movements of each vessel. We are very confident that we can continue to maintain marine safety. We also talked about in the policy address we'll have more yacht berthing spaces. Due to time constraints, I will give my closing remarks now. Hong Kong has many different advantages, including advantages with the support of the country as well as us being internationalized. When I talk to people from other places, they are often very jealous that we have the support of the country. We have the GBA plan. We also are a platform for bringing in and going global. We are the freest economy. There are almost no restrictions in conducting business. We have a world-class business environment. We have signed free trade agreements with different jurisdictions. We can help overseas companies enter the mainland market. We can act as a bridge with our connectivity. In order to allow the city to be more influential, we will try to have more international bodies set up operations in Hong Kong. That would include the AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. They have helped many Belt and Road countries and other countries and regions build infrastructure. We also want to set up another economic and trade office in Kuala Lumpur, so that we will have now 15 economic and trade offices. We also will set up a Go Global task force for mainland enterprises. We will have Invest Hong Kong, the Trade Development Council, and the economic trade offices work together. In total, there are over 100 offices. We cover over 50 locations. We want to provide a platform specifically for mainland enterprises to go global. We are also trying to expand our network to take advantage of new opportunities. We also want to expand our aviation map. We now will cover Southeast Asia, Middle East, Middle Asia, Latin America. We want to expand our coverage to Africa. I have tried to explain our different policies in different media interviews. We continue to want to liaise with the media so that we could tell the public more about our policies. We now welcome media's questions. Thank you. Before you ask your questions, please state your media outlet and please ask not more than 2 questions. This female journalist here. Hi, I'm from Singtao. I want to ask specifically about the head of department's accountability system. We already have a assessment mechanism for civil servants, would that be additional restrictions or a system that is exactly necessary? We have political accountability and administrative accountability. When will politically appointed officials be held accountable, and when the other parties will be held accountable? We also talk about telling good stories of Hong Kong with different measures. How is this work so important to be included in policy address? And with the media, what roles do they play in the government's plans? Thank you. For the heads of department accountability system, an enhanced assessment mechanism, essentially, it does not affect the existing mechanism, but we need to have the arrangements become more systematic. We need to make sure there is fairness. We need to make sure there are consequences for those who should be held accountable. And we also have a specific investigation team that is going to be independent, that is going to be very effective. They will be investigating all civil servants. They will include senior civil servants, so they can conduct quite comprehensive investigations. So with this accountability system, we can make the arrangements more systematic. If we do not have this system, we will need to take time to determine who is going to conduct the investigation, whether it is fair. With this system, we will have the Public Service Commission conduct investigations. They are already familiar with such matters. They have already been conducting disciplinary work. So we believe expanding functions of the Public Service Commission will be best. We are also enhancing the assessment mechanism. We have an existing mechanism, but then we have seen the appraisal mechanism providing, well, there are not many that are graded low grades under the existing assessment mechanism. Right now, there are 6 grades. If we have a good distribution, we will see who are the outstanding civil servants, and it would be easier for us to make recommendations in promotion. Right now, it is hard to differentiate civil servants. It is not fair either if we have one performing well but getting the same grade, say C or D or B or C as other staff members. I would say that I've experienced something similar, and we have to be promoted through the ranks. So we want to have a fair assessment mechanism, and the Civil Service Bureau is exploring ways to make this assessment mechanism fairer and clearer, so that we will have 6 clearly defined grades. Or if we have 3 grades, the grades should still be clearly defined for facilitation of decisions, say recommendations for promotions. With an unfair assessment mechanism for the ones who are performing well, it is unfair. And I believe most of the civil servants are elites, which is why we are ranked 2nd in the world rankings. We want to make things more systematic to instill confidence in citizens. It is also to enhance transparency and certainty, so that civil servants will generally be able to gauge what their grades are. We also want to help the media promote their services outside Hong Kong. It is because the media in Hong Kong are outstanding and we should promote your services in different places. We also understand that media outlets are facing difficulties in operations. If we can help the media expand their markets, we are already doing that for businesses. If we can help media outlets who are professional media outlets, we want to help them expand their markets and tell good stories of Hong Kong. The media also have their own networks. If they have a network with mainland and overseas media outlets, it is better for us to tell good stories of Hong Kong. But of course, we're taking things step by step. This is the first time I am seriously considering how we can promote the good services of Hong Kong to different parts of the world to tell the good stories of Hong Kong. This also shows the unity of Hong Kong.
The gentleman on the left, second row. From Ming Pao. First question. In the Metropolis Plaza, there will be dedicated legislation and different treatments. Would that be a special region in a special region? How do you prevent certain individuals, enterprises from abusing their rights? How do you hold them accountable? You mentioned that there will be at least one dedicated company or body. Does it mean that because of the huge interest is involved, you want to avoid the interests to be focused in the hands of just one single company? You also mentioned about tax concessions for key industries. Does it mean that for these key industries, the government will charge the lower than usual tax rate? How does it work? Would it be unfair to other enterprises? The Northern Metropolis has a strategic development area. There are three major areas. We want to develop them as soon as possible and attract industries to anchor there as soon as possible so that the living environment will improve. There will be more jobs and plenty more opportunities. So I am deeply concerned about the development of the Northern Metropolis. How do we expedite development? People talk about removing areas. If we can handle it through administrative measures, we will do that. There are also innovative approaches, say, for example, dedicated legislation. The merit is that it will be orderly and transparent. There may be dedicated legislation in the Northern Metropolis, but these dedicated legislation will have a specified scope of application. Well, let me give you an example. If you are in a Northern Metropolis and commit robbery, you will still be held liable. We want to expedite the development of the Northern Metropolis. We want to make use of dedicated legislation to achieve that. For example, we set up a statutory organization. The current regime is that we'll have to go through the LegCo. Can we do it by way of a subsidiary legislation, by putting in place a framework? That's what I mean by dedicated legislation to expedite the process. We want to put down legal basis to ensure that everything is done right. The area of the Northern Metropolis is vast. We have to develop through different fronts. Well, if there is only one company in charge of the management, then people will be concerned because we're talking about 1/3 of the area of Hong Kong in the hands of one company in terms of management. This will not serve Hong Kong well. What we can do is that we look at the different areas. We develop the area along this line. If for a different area, the expertise or the advantage lies in a different area, then there will be a different development direction. The company will take the area towards a different direction. We want to ensure that the overall interest of Hong Kong is served. This is a large-scale project. Of course, there is a part to play for the business sector. The government will work with the business sector. We need to combine an efficient market with a capable government. But we need to ensure that it's in line with the different interests, including legal matters and the overall interests of Hong Kong. We have policy packages. We came up with this idea because we have heard views from different sectors. We were told that in a discussion at a certain stage on a certain matter, say for example land grant, capital input, they would like the government to put in some funding in addition to some other policies. We have already got a series, an array of tools in our toolbox. We can just pick and choose what is suitable and beneficial. In the end, it is the FS who makes a decision. We have been very successful in terms of attracting enterprises. More than one enterprise told us that, well, another place offers them a policy or a deal that we can't give them. We realize that, and if we provide preferential policy packages, the FS will make a decision having taken into account international norm and practices. We want to overcome difficulties. We want to make sure that we would not lose out in terms of time and in terms of time, procedure, and policies to others. If you have that in your toolbox, I will make sure that I have the same in mind. We may not use the same policy in the same way, but if there is, say, a spanner in that toolbox, I want to make sure that I have a spanner in mind. In the second row, gentlemen. I'm from CCTV. The Northern Metropolis is a new chapter in Hong Kong's development. It is an important chapter. You will lead a committee on development of Northern Metropolis, working on dedicated policies. So when it comes to the layout of different industries in the Northern Metropolis, what is the significance? You also said in the policy address that you will put emphasis on helping enterprises going global. When it comes to emerging markets, say for example Middle East, RCEP countries, what are your initiatives? What do you think it will do to Hong Kong's status as an international center? The Northern Metropolis has a strategic development significance. In the Northern Metropolis, industry development is very important. That's why we have a dedicated chapter on the development of industries, because it sets the direction of the development. We're very successful in our pillar industries, in, say, for example, trade, financial services. But physical industry is also as important as the service industry. We want to strengthen our industries. We want to secure employment. We want to attract enterprises and nurture local industries. Want to attract industries to come to Hong Kong and nurture local ones. It is a dual-pronged approach, going in tandem. So that's why we need to have policies on industries. We think that high value adding emerging industries are very important to Hong Kong. That's why we have signed an agreement on intention with an aeronautic service company. I think there is huge potential in Asia. In Hong Kong, we offer connectivity and synergy with other streams as well. In terms of healthcare, we have an advantage because we have high quality service. We also can make use of the data in the mainland market. When it comes to emerging industries, we have sustainable aviation fuel. It is a global trend. We have a Hong Kong company producing SAF. It's the second largest SAF producing company in the world. We're working with mainland government departments to help the company find factors of production on the mainland. So we provide assistance when it's necessary. We help them to grow. We want to create positive interaction with mid and lower stream. There is development potential for hydrogen energy. We work on a complementary way. Hong Kong is a good platform to help enterprises to go global. There is the hydrogen energy corridor in the Guangdong province that covers production and transportation. As I said, there is a huge potential. We want to make that there is complementarity. So the hydrogen energy corridor is important. Well, that's the importance of industries. We help the food industry, the agri and fish industry to develop. We want to enable a diversified economy. And there is something that I have been working on in the past 3 years. We've been working, doing our work in the Middle East. There are plenty of opportunities in ASEAN countries because of the proximity and frequent interaction. From my contact with ASEAN countries, I feel that we have a lot of common ground. We have the same goal. We can work together for development. So of course, we will step up on our work with ASEAN countries in terms of, say, financial sector. there are about over 20 exchanges that have signed agreement with us for secondary listing. So there is a huge potential in ASEAN countries. So apart from traditional markets, say US and Europe, Central Asia is also important to us, and they want to establish connection with us as well. It's just like when I was courting my wife. If she refused to answer my calls, it wouldn't have worked. But when it's just like ASEAN countries. We are both willing, and that's why it worked. We want to work on expanding our aviation coverage. In terms of cargo transportation, we are the first in the world. If we can expand our network, it will bring plenty more opportunities. I have put in place long-term planning for industry developments. I want to trigger a structural change. Let me give you an example. Oasis. They have successfully attracted 84 strategic enterprises, bringing in about $50 billion. That's a huge amount of investment. They've also created about 20,000 jobs. So if our industries develop well, there'll be more jobs. People's lives will improve. We will attract more international attention. The development of the Northern Metropolis should be considered together with industry development. But the industries don't just develop in the Northern Metropolis. But I want to make use of 1/3 of area in Hong Kong to create new industries. You have talked about the industry parks, where we have I&T parks, Sentin Technopole, 210 hectares in area. If there is competition, then everything will be done well. It's not good to put all your eggs in one basket. So there are 3 major areas in the Sentin Technopole. Each area can accommodate more than one company, either a dedicated company or a statutory body. The FS will make the final decision, but the matter is that we should lose no time.
第二行中間男仔係。
Do we have any English questions? The male journalist sitting in the middle.
Firstly, in your policy address, you mentioned that the government will assist local media to expand their network beyond Hong Kong to tell the good stories of Hong Kong. Could you elaborate on exactly what this means, such as what markets the government is looking at, or what outlets that the government will try to assist? And also, what will you do to ensure that the whole initiative will not backfire, as the media would then be seen as losing their credibility when they're seen as government mouthpieces? And secondly, could you also the second question about the accountability measure, could the government also talk a little bit about my apologies. With the new government heads accountability scheme, my apologies. With the new head of the government accountability scheme, could you talk a little bit more about, are you worried about that having this new scheme would lead to the exodus of executive officers and administrative officer and worsen this exodus system? And also, when do you hope to apply this new heads of the government head accountability scheme? Will officers or the political appointees that are involved in recent scandal, like the head of the government logistics department, Carlson Chan, would he also be covered under this new accountability scheme? Thank you.
I believe that Hong Kong has a lot of good things to offer to the world, and one being the media. The media here, you are amongst them, are professional. They have a lot to offer. What I intend to do is we do it slowly, progressively, because this is the first time I think of working together to tell the good Hong Kong story through different sectors, participants, and leaders. I also find that the media industry is facing a lot of challenges. And like what I'm doing for all the family members of Hong Kong, businesses, industry, labor, whatever I can do to help them, I'll try my best. So I want to expand markets for them so that they will have new business opportunities. I think what I'm trying to do is opening doors for media to do their own things. I will not interfere with what they do, and I think our medias are professional enough to impress their partners overseas who are doing are not just professional, but of a very high standard. I have faith in them, so that is what I believe is the right thing to do, particularly when I have this idea of making use of Hong Kong as a platform to go out of Hong Kong. So anybody who can benefit from this new policy of going out, I'll do my best to help. Because any members of this family's good will be the overall good of Hong Kong. The other reason, which I've said when I answer a similar question in Chinese, is I believe the media, they themselves have their network. And they will be helpful in telling the good and true Hong Kong story through their network. So if I can help them tell this true and good Hong Kong story, I think I should, again, try to help them. And I also want the media to know that the government takes care of all sectors. I have been establishing good communication with a lot of media friends. I hope I can build up that relations with professional reporters such as you now here, but I don't have the time. So I have to do it in an organizational way, and that is my offer in the policy address. And I think my offer is right, because I do think they are good. I do think they have a lot to offer. And I do think they can make use of their network to tell the Hong Kong story. And I do hope that by doing this, I can make business more sustainable for them. The other thing is about the HOD accountability system. I must make it clear, first of all, HOD has always been accountable to the performance of the departments, but never in the history of Hong Kong has it been systemized. And without systemizing it, there is the downside of not being certain about, first of all, who will investigate, whether it will be fair, independent, and what are the possible outcomes. Who will do the investigation? I think a system that is so clear and all laid out will be beneficial to overall morale, because uncertainty is not a healthy thing. Creating certainty is what creating system is all about. So I am telling people what this accountability system's purpose are. I've laid out 3 purposes. I have also defined very clearly the 2 levels of investigation, and I've also stated very categorically that there will be a dedicated team ready for action. They are familiar with the systems of the government and has always been involved in disciplinary matters. So they will be dealing with it impartially, efficiently, and effectively. And they will be ready. So I think this is a system which helps people to understand even more what the government wants them to do. Here, I place a special emphasis on head of department, because I always believe that policy making is the responsibility of politically appointed officials. And it has happened in my term that I have changed people, and that is the accountability system for politically appointed officials. So I can still exercise my power under that accountability system. The civil servants, they have another system regarding how to manage them. Their employment is in accordance with all laid down regulations. The management and control system of the civil servants is by and large quite good. Because if it is not good, we will not be number 2 in the world for government efficiency. So let's face it, despite the fact that even I sometimes are not happy with some of the performances, by and large, in this forest of governments, we are the 2nd tallest tree in this government forest. But I believe in continuous improvement. There's never the best, only the better. So occasionally there will be problems. And I want those problems to rectify early so that you will continue to have confidence in the government. Yes, we make mistakes, but when we have mistakes, we rectify it. I think we all are so pragmatic. And when I rectify it, there will be consequences. But you have to be clear and fair to everybody so that they know, those who are affected, know what this is all about. Clarity, systemization, and fairness are the principal ingredients here. Another purpose of creating this HOD accountability, yes, it has a punitive factor, but the main purpose is not on this. Because by and large, I think they are doing very well. There are occasional lapses, we'll deal with them. It is a system to encourage them to build an even stronger and healthier system of control and management. I look for continuous improvement. If the head of the department knows that, well, if there's no continuous improvement, there may be problem, and then I will be accountable. So they will continuously look for improvement. So this promotion of positive culture will be enhanced by this HOD accountability system. Your question about, will then people worry about this system and then not be interested in the job? If they think like this, you better go. The government has a responsibility to serve the public well. I strongly believe in the ethics and professionalism of my civil servants, that they join this government to serve the public. Particular senior officers, when actually in the market, they are relatively not as well paid for quite a number of jobs. And that is why you see there is indeed exodus of some government officials to the private sector. They are grabbing my talents because they know they are talents, they are good. But if there is 1 or 2 particular person who are worried about this, then They're not qualified to be an HOD. One thing any leader should feel shameful about is that when his team, who are working so hard of them, they don't get the compliment they deserve, when the blame should be on the leader. I think that is what I want to change. And I do believe that my HODs are all very good. Occasionally, there are lapses. We will deal with those lapses, and fairly, because I've said here very clearly, according to the level of the problem. We will deal with them accordingly, whether administratively or disciplinarily. For the bad case, of course, under the disciplinary code, he can get the harshest punishment. But on the other hand, there are a lot of good, very devoted civil servants every day doing their job. You can see them when there is severe weather, they all go out. You can see them when we want to test the Kai-Tak sports stadium. They're all committed to help making this a success. So there are very, very, very many very devoted professional civil servants I feel so proud of. And this is often reflected in the #2 highest rating internationally by independent organizations' assessment. I strongly believe my HODs are very responsible officials, and we will be creating a system that will encourage people to become better.
好，下去提問。最尾嗰行綠色衫男記者。
The one in the last row.
The first question is to follow up on the new head of department accountability system. Regarding the bottled water procurement scandal last month, would an incident of that nature or that level of severity activate the new system? Also, will there be any appeal mechanism following an investigation? The other question is related to AI development. Currently, a number of leading AI tools, especially those developed by US tech companies, are not readily available in Hong Kong. Would that impede your plan to develop AI's application in Hong Kong? And does the government have plans to negotiate with foreign companies to bring more AI tools into Hong Kong? Thank you.
For the HOD accountability system, first of all, the team has to be set up through regulations made under the relevant law. It will, I think, take some time for this to be debated in LegCo. It will be a subsidiary legislation. And also we will, of course, communicate with our staff, representatives, to seek their views. But I must emphasize, there is always an HOD accountability system. There's always like this. There's always such a system. What I'm doing here is create more certainty, create its proper institutional framework, and also ensure that it will be an efficient, effective, and fair system for all. One advantage you will see in this system is usually when something happens, then there will be an inquiry to identify the problems. After the problems are identified, then there will be a second inquiry to identify misconduct. But this new HOD system can combine the two. In other words, while problems are being identified, accountability will be identified as well. And that is what it will create, is efficiency. We will shorten two processes into one. And when you talk about an incident now, as I've said, the dedicated team hasn't been established, so we can't have the dedicated team to investigate it. But as I always said, accountability always exists, whether the system comes in or not. That accountability will not go away. It will be dealt with in accordance with the present framework where we identify problems and responsibilities and deal with it accordingly. But the new system will create clarity, certainty, efficiency, impartiality, and also trust in the system. And you have talked about AI. AI, I think, is something we must do. Otherwise, we will be relegated to the end of any competition. Besides, AI does help us to do things better. One example I've quoted in my policy address is that using AI, the Census and Statistics Office, they can, out of thousands of reports published by organizations, extract that by AI, and then the efficiency increases manifolds. Another example, which I haven't mentioned in the policy addresses, they may, on one occasion, have to count the number of ships in a particular sea area in order to identify the statistical product for society. What they do, they have to usually go and count the number of ships. But then with AI, with aerial photographing, then they have done an exercise to compare the results. The results is not just the same, is in fact better. And the amount of time saved is, again, manifolds. So AI is a must for efficiency enhancement. That is application only. But AI itself can be an industry, and AI has to be an industry for it to thrive, to prosper, for it to become even better. And one thing AI needs is, first of all, data. The second is application. In what area should it be applied? So widely promoting AI application is to make AI become AI plus. I mean, the AI plus concept is very similar to internet. We had the stage of internet. We have had the stage of internet plus. In other words, internet of things. So what we are living now in the world is everything is connected. So it's not just a network, it's not just internet, it's internet plus. So AI will develop to a stage where it will become AI plus. In other words, it will not just be a tool. It will not just be an industry. It will integrate different areas. So we may have quite a different way of living through AI, something we have to keep watching and see how it develops. So AI is a must, and our position is clear. Hong Kong is a free port, is an open society, so we'll welcome any technology, any companies that come in. And foreign companies that have been setting up offices in Hong Kong has reached record high, and that is reflected in my policy address. So we welcome companies from different parts of the world to come to Hong Kong for business, AI or non-AI. And that is what Hong Kong is about. It's a free and open port. It is a place where we will have no control on capital, people-to-people travel, money, and also data, goods. So this is a free Hong Kong where we make the place convenient to do business and business friendly.
OK， 最後一條啦，我哋右手邊中間個女記者黑色衫。
The lady in black in the middle. I'm from In Media. First question. 2 questions only. Three items have fallen below their KPIs, some from the Development Bureau. Last year, a Secretary of Department who have failed in the KPI was replaced. Do you have any plans to replace anyone? The next question is about the accountability system of HOS. If a systemic risk is not identified causing an incident, well, how will it be resolved? Will the new system be seen as a way to shirk responsibility? If there is any mishap in the implementation of policy, will secretaries of departments be held accountable? Are you concerned that civil servants will tend to do less because they don't want to make mistakes because the system will dampen their morale? I want to say that I am happy with the performance of civil servants. A lot of topics covered in the policy address were floated by heads of departments and secretaries of departments. Their performance has been satisfactory. Innovative ideas came from the secretaries of departments and directors of bureau as well as their team. They have given me a lot of constructive and valuable views after brainstorming. So I'm happy with their performance. I would like to say that the accountability system of HOD does not replace any existing accountability system. HODs are held accountable for blunders. Civil servants are accountable to their own performance. That's stated in the Code for Civil Servants. So they're accountable for their performance. The HOD accountability system will make HODs more accountable. They are very committed and responsible. But I'm sure you know that there is a duty for the HOD to be held accountable. That should be made certain. Civil servants will be held accountable for mistakes they have made. That's very clear. When we have built-in certainty in the system, then a healthier and more efficient management system is established. HOD will intervene when there are problems, say, for example, by providing assistance, advice. And if necessary, make a decision. There is a two-tier mechanism under the accountability system of HODs. I have stated very clearly what is categorized under Tier 1 and 2. If it's Tier 1, well, the HOD or the secretaries of department may take up the investigation. Or trigger the system. The activation mechanism is clearly stated. If it meets one of the three scenarios under Tier 1, then the director of bureau can activate the investigation. the circumstances of the matter will be considered before a decision is made as to who will activate the mechanism. I believe that there are many more opportunities for you to ask questions. I'm sure that you will need time to read through the policy address because there are 38,000 words. I'm sure you will have more questions. Secretaries of departments and directors of bureau will, starting from tomorrow, hold various press conferences giving you further details. Of course, I will do interviews on different occasions. I haven't stopped since this morning. I'm sure you have been working very hard. I thank you all for your questions. It shows that you have read the policy address and you have had a very good understanding. Through your coverage, you'll give a better understanding to the general public about our policies. I might not be able to elaborate enough in the policy address, but I thank you for your help. Thank you.